let's discuss some of the issues which we may experience while practicing extensive reading. So far we have talked a lot about extensive reading. We have talked about some of its practical constraints, some of its practical implications in the language classroom, and the role student-teacher relationship. So of course, the research suggests, as you can see here, we do talk a lot about extensive reading, but despite our talking, we do it less in our language class. I'm just wondering, and I would like to just ask you guys, to what extent you have been exposed to extensive reading during your studies, let's say from grade 1 to your MA level. Have you ever been exposed to or given text by your teachers to read extensively? Most of you might be coming up with no. So why are not we all doing extensive reading? That's the question. And how many of us are not implementing it? And why not we are implementing it? Day and Bamford, their study suggests that we have some misperceptions attached to extensive reading, which are, we think that intensive reading is adequate, or it can be sufficient to make our students read fast, read for meaning focused input. And there is another misperception that intensive reading, IR here stands for intensive reading, that can make our students fluent and good readers. Actually, in reality, this doesn't happen, because fluency and good readership can come through extensive reading. Okay, so and in an intensive reading, the teacher supervision, the role of the teacher is much more teacher-centered. Because intensive reading, as we have already taken a greater look at what is intensive reading, what are its principles, and how we can implement it in the classroom through different tasks, activities, and comprehension types. Okay. So this actually gives much more control to the teacher, and there is less likelihood of student talk in the classroom, and that's why this doesn't develop, fluent reading amongst our students. However, on the other hand, in an extensive reading program, the relationship between student and teacher is entirely changed. So instead of teacher becoming a sage on the stage, they become a member of the reading community. Okay, so there are, of course, practical constraints why we are not implementing extensive reading in our language programs. What are these? So these are like, because we may be belonging to a culture where teacher is much more considered supreme, or they are given a teacher-centered role, and where the discourse of language teacher is much more there the teacher talk is much more there in the classroom. Okay, so in an extensive reading, we come up with activities, post-reading activities, which give much exposure and much place to the learners. So extensive reading can be developed through comprehensible input, and of course there is a key relationship between extensive reading and writing. So it not only develops the style of the students, but also helps them improve their lexical knowledge and grammatical knowledge, syntactic knowledge. Okay, so Nation suggests, as I'm talking about, the information for this lecture is coming from Nation book EFL ESL Reading and Writing. So their study suggests that extensive reading can be done through reading, and it can be developed by means of continuous practice. And in that specific practice or framework, teacher needs to work as a model, as can keep track of what's going on, how the students are learning, what are their problems. And there can be some conferences where we can discuss these issues, and we can pose some questions to the students and ask them, uh, design posters, what they found interesting, what is favorite, what they don't find favorite. So this is how there are some issues in practicing extensive reading, and we need to be aware of these issues as language teachers.